And welcome in. Once again, it's time for Trust Matters, Real Estate and Estate Planning Solutions with Sean Robertson of Gateville Law Firm. They're in Yorkville and online at gatevillelawfirm.com. Sean is with us via the phone lines today. Welcome back, Sean. How are things going?
Hey, doing well. You know, it's still kind of time to play some golf, so it's still good weather.
That's good. He's taking time off between shots here. Hopefully there's no long group behind you here. All right, so today's topic, protecting your nest egg from your heirs' creditors with retirement trusts. So break this down for us. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, so basically, a lot of times when you have retirement assets like a 401k, an IRA, a pension, those assets are, at least in Illinois, they're exempt from creditor claims. But as soon as that person passes away and you inherit retirement assets, those claims, a creditor can access those monies or an inheritance. So one of the strategies we use for generally people with more than $250,000 in a retirement account is a retirement plan trust that becomes the beneficiary of the retirement account.
Yeah, because you have your savings and all the rest of it. Maybe one of your heirs or your main heir, they've got a lot of debt or bankruptcy issues or those types of things. So this retirement trust can help kind of save all of that.
Yeah, and I know I've had several listeners that have, come in and talked to me that have had some creditor issues where maybe they got a judgment in the past. So the retirement trust is a great way to kind of help resolve issues. And I think a lot of times what people don't understand, Mike, is they just assume that the money is going to go to their loved ones, but sometimes their loved ones have problems. So that's where the trust comes in, just in case there is an issue, and sometimes you can't anticipate when there could be a problem.
Yeah, so this way the assets are held by the trust, not by the heir personally.
Correct. And the benefit of the trust in that case, Mike, is then they could file bankruptcy, they could have creditor problems, and they could preserve that asset. Otherwise, what happens is the creditor ends up getting the money versus the heir, which is not generally what the parents would want.
So you probably don't want to just strictly name an heir as a beneficiary outright?
Correct. I mean, you can name an heir outright, but generally, like, let's say you have $250,000, $500,000, $1 million. That's kind of when it starts making a lot more sense to create a trust as the beneficiary, because you want your hard-earned money going to your family, not to a divorcing spouse or the in-law that you didn't like. So that's kind of where the retirement plan trust comes in, Mike.
How about creditor protection? What's it say as far as the law on that?
Yeah, so during your lifetime, Illinois generally protects many retirement accounts, such as IRAs, 401ks, from your creditors. However, that protection often doesn't extend, Mike, like I mentioned earlier, to your heirs. So once the funds pass directly into somebody's name, personal name, they may lose that creditor protection. That's where a retirement trust can preserve that protective barrier for them by keeping the assets in the trust rather than letting it go to the heir's personal property.
And there are some other benefits, too, of retirement trust. What are some of those?
Yeah, so you can basically structure the payouts over time so your heirs aren't hit with large tax burdens all at once. Sometimes spendthrift protection is important. The trust can guard against heirs squandering the funds by requiring oversight, limitations, or delayed releases. And this is really important, like if you have somebody that you know is not as the most responsible, or you have young heirs like in their 18, 19, in their 20s. So these are things you can do to kind of protect them.
Another big decision here is making sure you choose the right trustee. That's pretty important.
Yeah, so a lot of times people will choose a trusted family member. So the trustee would take over upon death. In some cases, if there's enough money, sometimes a professional fiduciary, a bank, or a trust company may make sense. But generally, the trustee will be responsible for managing the investments, making distributions per your instructions in the trust, and following the tax and legal rules. So basically, the trustee, you're picking somebody capable, impartial, and trustworthy.
In our last 30 seconds or so, how would you sum up kind of what we've discussed here?
Yeah, so basically, I would say that the trust operates in a couple things. So number one, it makes sure to preserve your asset. And a lot of times, maybe a surviving spouse is over 60 or your kids are. Health care and long-term care costs could be a huge liability concern. So the retirement plan trust comes in to kind of shield the asset to make sure the money stays in the family, which is your goal.
If you have any questions about this or anything we've discussed on these shows, the best way to handle that is to contact the folks at Gateville Law Firm. You can call them directly, 630-780-1034. You can get a hold of Sean Robertson and his team via the phone or online at gatevillelawfirm.com. They are located in Yorkville. Thanks for listening to Trust Matters, Real Estate and Estate Planning Solutions.